Welcome to Notable Approvals. I am attorney Amanda Schaefer. Before we get to our case today, just a reminder, make sure that you like us and follow us on Facebook and Instagram, LinkedIn, subscribe to YouTube, Twitter, all of that so you don't miss another live. Today's case is about a K-1 fiance visa petition, and it is notable for a few reasons. First, the clients met on Facebook. They met on Facebook and only met in person once. Hi, Manuel. Thank you for watching today, which is exactly what the requirement is, that you have to have met in person at least one time within the last 2 years. But when there's only one meeting as opposed to multiple meetings, of course, you have less evidence, which in this case wasn't a problem because we did not get a request for evidence. And considering that it was in the middle of a pandemic, it was being processed, it only took 8 months, which is really not that bad. So they met on Facebook, hit it off, and then the fiance, or the immigrant fiance, is from Mexico, and the petitioner is from New York. So they actually met up in Montreal, Canada, and they spent, I think, a week together. We put in lots of different evidence, including their boarding passes, pictures of their passport stamps, their hotel registration, credit card bills from that time showing that they both made purchases in Montreal, receipts from the things they did together, and photos of the two of them together. And like I said, that was all we really needed to do to get the petition approved. Hi, Tanya. Thank you for watching. So one thing that's interesting about this case that I've pointed out before is that every relationship is different. And in this case, we have someone who is a religious Jewish person and someone who's from Mexico who is not a Jewish person. But religion doesn't matter in this case because the fact of the matter is that you can marry anyone of any religion you want. And that was not an issue, but it just shows that there doesn't have to be one way to do things, or there isn't one type of relationship, I should say, that is correct or right or is going to be more valid or legitimate than others. These two, was love at first sight, and they decided that it was meant to be, and they're going to, she's going to come into the U.S. soon, and they're going to get married within 90 days, or she's going to leave, basically. So that was one thing. The second thing is that you can marry someone that you haven't lived with before, or that you've only met in person once, or that you've only lived with a short period of time. Again, there isn't a requirement that you have to have lived with someone for a certain period of time or have met more than once. It really all depends on the type of evidence, and the fact of the matter is you have to have a real intention to get married within 90 days of entry, and you have to be able to be married, which means if you were married before, you have to be legally divorced. So for them, we're very excited for them. The next step is that she goes through the NVC, or National Visa Center process, which shouldn't take too long. She'll go to her visa interview in Mexico and then eventually enter as a K-1 fiance. And then within 90 days of her entry, they will have to get married. And once they get married, she can apply for her green card. So another thing about this case that we often have conversations with people a lot about is which way they should go, or which option they should choose. So what I mean by that is this client said, well, should I just file a marriage petition for her? Because just like the fiance visa petition, the marriage petition, there's no requirement you live with the person. There's actually no in-person meeting requirement for the marriage petition, but it's a little different because then you have to show joint marriage evidence, which you're not going to really have if you've never lived together or, even been in the same country together. So, and then another possible option for people who are already in the U.S., so someone who entered with a valid visa, so she had gotten a B2 visa, entered the U.S., and then they got married after a certain period of time, it was possible to do an adjustment of status, but, you risk a few things there. Number one, you do have to wait at least 90 days so that they don't think that you lied about your intention of coming in the country in the first place. And the other thing is you're still not going to have that much marriage evidence. The immigrant's probably not going to have a social security number. So there's all types of logistical problems when you do it that way. most of the ones that we do that way, and we do a lot of them that way, are people who have already overstayed. It wasn't like they were planning in advance, like this is the only way I can get into the US with a visitor visa, because that's not technically the right way to do it. But if you're in the US on after a valid admission or parole, and you marry a US citizen, yes, you can adjust your status, even if you're no longer in status. So when we talked to him, we explained to him, well, we actually spoke to him before he met her in person, and we said, look, these are what your options are. Pretty much, you meet her in person, you file the fiance visa petition, she comes here, you guys have a few months to decide for sure, are you going to get married? You get married, great, she gets her green card. You guys don't, then she has to leave the country. The other option is the I-130 marriage petition, where you're filing for her while she's outside the US, which again, if they had a longer history together, that may have been a viable option. But in this case, it always depends on the situation. In this case, we didn't think it was the right option because they had no joint life together yet. And we were right, since the fiance visa petition was approved without any problem. So we're very excited for our client because he's looking forward to starting his life together with his fiance, and getting that whole process started, moving on. So if you are thinking about marrying, if you're an immigrant or a U.S. citizen thinking about getting married and having to go through the immigration process, it's best if you can reach out to an experienced immigration attorney before you make any decisions, before you leave the country, enter the country, get married, any of those things. And the reason is because we can advise you, like, okay, based on the facts and circumstances of your life, you should do this. You should do the fiance petition. You should do the marriage petition while the person's outside, or don't let your fiance leave the country now because they'll never get back in, type of thing. So it's really important you understand that before you file, and that's what we do every day. This type of conversation with these three paths, it's a common conversation that we have with potential clients and clients, our clients that we've had for a long time. So if you or anybody that you know is looking to file a marriage-based or a family-based petition, or have any questions, our contact information has been scrolling across the bottom of your screen. We're here to help. Please do not hesitate to contact us. Don't forget, like us, follow us on Facebook. I hopefully will be back tomorrow with another notable approval. I've been pretty busy lately. It's been hard to squeeze these in. That's why I missed out yesterday. But we have a lot of interesting cases to talk about. So hopefully I'll be back tomorrow. And if not, just a reminder, next Wednesday, I didn't announce this yet, but next Wednesday, February 17th, the announcement will go up tomorrow. We're going to have our second episode of Are You Smarter Than Naturalized Citizen, where we see two more immigration attorneys, one born in the US, one naturalized, go head to head to see who can pass the naturalization test first. It was a lot of fun the first time, and it will be a lot of fun this time. So I invite you all to join, especially if you're studying for your naturalization test. It's a great way to practice and to learn about it. That is all for today. Thank you all for watching, and have a great day.